We begin this hour in Europe with the heat wave that is tearing across the south of the continent.
The series of heat waves we have been experiencing in Western Europe as a clear sign of global warming.
Today, the media assures us that the current heat wave and even wildfires are a result of global warming. But in 1978, they were playing a different tune.
Climate experts believe the next ice age is on its way. According to recent evidence, it could come sooner than anyone had expected. At weather stations in the far north, temperatures have been dropping for 30 years. Seacoasts, long free of summer ice, are now blocked year-round. According to some climatologists, within a lifetime, we might be living in the next ice age.
In 1966, British children were asked their thoughts about the future. Their main worries were nuclear apocalypse and overpopulation.
I think that it'll be so overpopulated that there'll all be wars, all nuclear explosions and everything. It'll make the Earth, too much radiation on it. It'll become too hot to live on. I think that there'll be no life at all, really, on the Earth.
I think it'll be very dull, and people would all be squashed together so much there won't be any fun or anything. And people will be rationed to the amount of things they can have, because if they had too many things, it would just squash their houses, and there just wouldn't be room for them.
Back then, overpopulation fears were stoked over and over by the media.
So the first thing that should happen is that the president ought to say, from here on out, no intelligent, patriotic American family ought to have more than 2 children, preferably 1. And there's not the slightest question that if we don't get the population under control with voluntary means, that in the not too distant future, the government will simply tell you how many children you can have and throw you in jail if you have too many.
Yet what we are experiencing now, at least in terms of white European populations, is a birth collapse.
Italy's national birth rate has fallen to its lowest level on record. New figures reveal 400,000 births were recorded last year, which has attributed to an overall decline in population numbers. The ailing numbers have been declared a national emergency.
At the same time that migration from different countries increases.
He ought to make the FCC see to it that large families are always treated in a negative light on television wherever they appear.
My Big Redneck Family is a new kind of comedy.
There'll be so many people that they'll have to have an overflow into the sea.
In 1966, British school children had fears of being squashed by overpopulation, but at least they were all white. Even today, despite the birth rate collapse, a lot of people in the elite have this thing about reducing population.
And reduce population?
Before, it was about overpopulation and lack of resources and world hunger. But since world fatness turned out to be a bigger problem than world hunger,
even though it's very difficult to get around, I truly love shopping for food.
Now it's more about pandemics or climate change.
So I am giving up my dream of having a family because I will only have children if I know they have something to live for.
An alarming statement from a young woman terrified about the consequences of climate change.
As a descendant of survivors of the Holocaust, the idea that my children might again face the worst of what humanity has to offer scares me more than anything else.
I don't want you to be hopeful. I want you to panic.
In 2023, she's saying,
right now we don't have any laws that holds the carbon in the ground. We don't have any laws that long-term protect us against the self-destructing greed that we have let in full control over the world. The laws have to be changed. We know that we cannot save the world by playing by the rules because the rules have to be changed.
And yes, this is what this seems to be about. Changing laws and changing society. Whether it's war or disease or a coming ice age or a coming global warming, the media's message is always the same.
Be afraid. Be very afraid.
it's working.
We're all gonna die!